Today I'm going to show you how I've been putting my battery management systems onto these Hyundai Kia salvaged batteries. Should end up like this. Start out with this one. The battery management system I'm using is the low cost BMS. It's an open source BMS that I've used many times. Traditionally what I've done is, here's a cell and it's got a circuit for each cell. And so this circuit is powered by the cell, measures the temperature and voltage and sends those on to the master unit. So the way this is designed, it's powered by the cell and it just communicates to the next one. It's got a temperature sensor right here next to the bolt, which means it can get a reasonable idea of the temperature of the entire cell because it transmits through. This has meant that I've had a different size circuit board for each size cell. So this is a larger format cell here. These ones here are made for smaller cells. And you can see here the way that I've wired these up. This is a prototyping board, but these would normally be sitting on top of cells. And so you go here from the output of this cell, it's communicating through to the input of this one, output to the input of the next one, output to the input of the next one. And they send their communications along and then out to the master unit. That's what we've done so far. This new one, I don't have individual cells to place circuit boards on, and so I've done this circuit board here. So you can see this one is the same circuit, but it's 6 times on a board. And so it's the same idea. Each one of these talks to the next one, but they talk through wires on the board rather than separate external flying leads. And then there is a connector for the flying leads from the input and the output of each of these 6. And so why 6? It's because we've got 6 cells in series in this side and another 6 in series in this side of these battery modules. To get the voltage for each of these, we come from a socket on here and we come into here. So to power each of these 6 circuits, you're going to need positive and negative for each of them. So that sounds like 12 connectors on the face of it, except this has been designed for 6 cells in series. And so we've actually gone down to 7. So that's for the first cell, you've got your negative and your positive. And then for the second cell, the negative of that one is the positive of this one. And so we end up with 7 altogether. That's in this connector here. And in here also, because we don't have, this isn't bolted onto the cells, we need external temperature leads. And so this plug here is for the external temperature leads, which go and stick them onto the cells themselves. The first thing that I do when I'm putting the battery management system on one of these modules is to check out the module and see what it looks like. You can see here we've got some voltages on the front. Let's check them and see if they're the same now. This was the voltage when we first received this, which was over a year ago now, and put them in storage. Multimeter set to volts. This one, the label says 23.89, this says 23.8786. This one 23.8786. These look still very good from the voltage point of view. Other things I look at is whether this is bent. This has often been bent by the people who took these out of cars. This one looks fine though. Don't see any particular damage around here. There's a little bit of a dent there. These often again have dents and so on in these cooling plates here. Hopefully it doesn't mean that there's any problems further in. We hopefully find those if there are any problems with further testing. So what I saw on the back of this one is that it was missing this cover plate. And so I've made up a Perspex, well, acrylic bit of plastic here just to fit over there, so you don't touch the connections here. But this is an example here of how the cells are connected together. You've got 2 cells in parallel and then another 2 cells underneath in parallel, and the tabs fold round here and welded together. And you can also see your socket a bit better here as well. There's the same socket as on that side. Other side looks fine. And something I am noticing here is that there's meant to be a bar across here. So each of these is we've got a plastic cover on here and then a metal plate on top of it. And it's held down by these 2, what do you call those? Those 2 bits there. And then it's also held down by a bracket which is meant to go across there. So if you look on here, this is what we're missing. So this is a completely separate piece. It's the only piece that goes along the top here from one side to the other. One of the jobs of this is to help keep this plate here down to compress this in the case the cells want to expand. If the cells expand, they'll be pushing upwards. So this needs to be on here to help this plate stop that expansion. On this one, my guess is that where this was in the battery of the car, this probably was a bracket that was then used somewhere else. And so when they pulled it apart, that bracket went with the next battery or whatever it was. So I need to put some kind of bracket on top of here. And what this is, there's just these studs. So these are the studs. They just thread into there. And you can see in these ones that it's an odd shape. I assume this is for strength. And so you've got a bolt each side, and then this sort of goes over the contours of the top plate. The top plate is contoured like that. Making a bracket that's contoured to this plate is, I think, a bit over the top for me. So I'm just going to do a straight bracket. This one is a bit of aluminium angle to give it a bit more strength. I did this for most of my batteries and then I ran out, and so the other end I'm just going to have flat bar. Because the original bracket was contoured, I'm going to try and push down on this bracket in as many places as I can. If I put a flat bar across, it'll nicely compress onto this top bit, and I've figured out that I can fill up this gap here with one flat washer and one spring washer. On the top I'm putting a spring washer and a nut. Got a spring washer on there so it's less likely to rattle undone in a car. Now before I get too carried away, I need to remember to put these cables in. This cable assembly is to go onto the circuit board. So if you remember before, I said I had 7 contacts in an 8 connector here, an 8 contact connector. So the way that I've done it is I've got that bit to plug onto the circuit board. I'll grab a circuit board. Goes onto the circuit board like so. And then on the other end, I have these small connectors. We have 7 altogether. That's 4 in one end and 3 in the other end. And so one's long, so it can go all the way to the other end. They plug into these spots here. I found that the wire runs nicely along the top there. So I need to thread these in through here. This is the right one. This is the left one. They don't go through once I've bolted it down, so I need to remember to put them in first. Now the prevailing wisdom with these sorts of things is to go diagonally, so there. to try and to do them bit by bit so that you don't sort of compress this one all the way up and then this one doesn't go down to the right level and so on. I've got a torque wrench. I need to set it to 12 Newton meters. This is just, it seems like the ones on the other batteries are at 12 Newton meters. So I've decided to do this the same. Good, brackets are on. Next thing to do is plug in these sockets, plug in these plugs, in like so. So there's 3 connectors on this back one. So there's 1 for each of these and 4 on the front. One problem that I do have sometimes is these connectors have often been broken because when they were salvaged they just yanked the connectors out. And so what that means is they're missing the little catch that holds them in there. It doesn't seem to matter, they hold in there really well, I suppose because they're very light, there's nothing heavy flapping around on them. So as long as I put this out of the way and have it not, you don't accidentally tug on it, then it should be fine. Sometimes they are broken beyond repair though, and I do need to replace them. I've got new ones. So if I need to replace them, I've got a new socket here and I can solder it onto that circuit board. I haven't had one where the circuit board's been broken yet. Next thing to do is to test whether there are the correct voltages on these connectors here where I'm going to plug them to the circuit board. Because what can happen is on those circuit boards in here, they're designed to have fuses on them. And so you can have a voltage across here, but the individual fuses can be blown in here. That's been happening, I assume, because when they yank out the wires or when they cut through them or whatever, they're shorting them out and occasionally blowing one of these little fuses. So let's see how we are here. What I've got is a breakout board here. So I've got the right hand side plugged in both ends. That's broken out here into this variable where I can check the voltages. So here we have 23.85. If I measure from 1 to 7, 23.85. So what that means is that fuses for 1 and 7 are good. Okay, 3.94, that's one cell. 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. So these fuses are all okay. This plug here is ready to plug into my BMS. That's the right side. Let's try the left side. I'm only clamping that on to make it there so you can read it in the video. We're getting all our measurements through here. So now that we're onto this side, again 23.86. Measure from 1 to 7, pin 1 to pin 7, 23.86, that's good. So the first one, 4 volts, 8 volts, 12 volts, 16, and 0. Then if we go up to number 7, we go, okay, so what this means, we've got 0 volts on the 6th pin. We're fine on number 5, we're fine on number 7, but on number 6 we've got 0 volts. That means almost certainly that we've got there's two possibilities. Either there's something wrong in the wiring where I've done this this cable here, and so I might have done a pin wrong in here somewhere, but most likely there's a fuse blown. Now it's on number 6, and number 6 is the other side of the battery. I've written down which ones are on which, and the even ones are on the other end of the battery and the odd ones are here. So there's 4 here and there's 3 on the other end. So what that means is that I've got a blown fuse on the left hand side back. So let's take that cover off and have a look. Okay, so the problem is in this side. We need to take this cover off. First we'll take the plug out. And then these covers have little tabs in the side. You can sort of lever them open. Once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. On this end we have 3 connections. That means 3 of the 4 wires in this socket are used, the other one isn't. And we have 3 fuses. 1, 2, 3. So surface mount little fuses on that circuit board. I'll turn my multimeter onto continuity. So it'll beep when things are connected together. And this is the first fuse. So that one's good. That one's good. This one's not good. So this one's blown. We do indeed have a blown fuse. So we need to replace this fuse with a new one. Here's my soldering station. I'm going to set this here. This is the heat gun. Set that as high as it goes. I'm going to turn the soldering iron on. So that's the soldering iron on that side. That's the heat gun. Let's try and get this fuse off. First I'll remove the conformal coating. This coating is just to add a little bit of protection from things poking it and dirt and whatever, but it's just annoying from a soldering point of view. I need to take it off. And the heat gun. So I'm applying heat, trying to keep it just to that area, because there's other plastic things here. I can smell them already. I want to get it as quick as possible. There we go, it's come off already. What we have here now is a nice little pad ready for our new fuse. Just going to clean it up a little bit with the soldering iron. And maybe even with the screwdriver, just make sure there's not more of that coating on it. Solder paste. These are my fuses. I just need one in this case. And these are spring-loaded tweezers that hang on to them when I let go. And then I just use a solder. The way that I do it is I hold a bit of pressure on the fuse. And soldering on there. Yeah, new fuse. Cover can go back on. I replaced the fuse. Let's check the voltages now. 4, 8, 12, 16. Oh, it was the next one wasn't working, was it? 20. There we go. 20 is now working, as is 24. Okay, so our left plug is now ready to plug into a BMS.